On the members of the public list is Robert Lombardo.
Thank you, Robert Lombardo. I want to speak about the police pension issue. It's been in the paper quite a bit, and I want to debunk the false statements that are coming out and try to show you what a common run-of-the-mill fraud that the town manager is pulling on the town of Westerly. It's despicable. I've written many emails to the town council. They've mostly gone unheeded, so I've CC'd Mr. Goodman on some of these, and I thought it was important, since I had CC'd him on some of my correspondence to the town council, that I come here and present it to you, because I think you're all intelligent enough to see through the fraud. I'm going to take my time. I apologize for the time, but you need to understand this. I will tell you, I've had Mr. Gagne, Mr. Silvestri, Mr. Aiello, and Mr. Marone in my office, and I've explained it to them, and they all get it, what happened. None of the other town councils are interested, but this is a huge $1.5 million fraud by Mr. Kennedy. I'm going to start at the beginning, 1993. That time, police officers, when they were hired by the town of Westerly, received health care for their families till the day they died. The problem was, as you know, in 1990s, the health care started to shoot up, and it became a problem for the town to support these pensions. The other problem that happened is Mario Celico. Mario Celico had been married. He was retired, getting full retirement health benefits for his family. He started a new family. So he had more children. And then that added another 21 years onto the town's liability. And the solicitor at the time, Joe Turo, who I interviewed for several hours on this to understand it, said our actuaries wouldn't write us a report because there was no end to the costs of the town. They needed to get the town expenses for retirement health care under control. So, in 1993, they said to the police union, the town of Westerly, Joe Turo was the attorney, you're not getting any more health care upon retirement. There was an arbitration case. It went up to arbitration, and the arbitrator sided with the town of Westerly, said you do not have to pay police officers their health insurance upon retirement anymore. I want to read this. I didn't put this in, but I want you to read it because this was a big case back in 1993. Police officers had always gotten retirement benefits till they died. But this is from the lawyer, Thomas McAndrew, to Joe Turo, August 27, 1993. Didn't send it. I'm going to skip to the second paragraph. This award represents one of the most significant achievements that any community in the state of Rhode Island has achieved, and that is the elimination of health care benefits for individuals hired in the police department after July 1st, 1993. The economic effect of the elimination of this provision is most significant. And as you well know, it was. A full family plan is expensive for the town of Westerly each year. Officer might retire at 40, 45 till the day he dies. Huge. Therefore, if you go downstairs, and I didn't make copies, but if you go downstairs like I did and looked at all the police contracts from 1993, there was a simple paragraph. If you were hired before 1993, you received health care benefits till the day you died. If you were hired after 1993, you received nothing. Zero. That remained the same, and you can check yourself. I spent a lot of time on this. I got stymied by the town, Mr. Oliverio, didn't want me to have the information. But I went downstairs, and you can look at yourself. And at that time was beautiful because what they did with the contracts, unlike what Mr. Kennedy does, the town manager would give a summary for the town council what the changes were between the contract. 2 pages written out what the changes in the contract were. Mr. Kennedy doesn't do that. Also, the solicitor at the time would sign off on the police contract. You can go downstairs, a letter. I've reviewed this. It's okay. That doesn't happen anymore. Mr. Oliverio did not sign off on it. It's unclear whether he looked at this contract. We have a solicitor in this town who sat here and told the town council that he would be a labor lawyer. I mean, this is the joke about attorneys. They can tell you they're anything. You have no idea. But he sold himself as a labor attorney. I doubt he knows anything about labor law, but I don't think he looked at the contract. He couldn't be bothered with this contract. And when I'm talking about this contract, I'm talking about July 2016 that Derrik Kennedy did, and he's never done a contract. I guarantee it. He has no idea what he's doing. It's a joke. Anyway, 2004. I want to tell you about 2004, what happened. The union's getting to the point where most of the union in the police department were hired after 1993. And there were less police officers hired before 1993. Sean Lacey was the police union representative. I talked to him. He said, well, we knew at that time that the younger guys were going to take over the union and they were going to throw us under the bus. So what they did was the union went in and said, the guys before 1993, we'll pay 10% of our health care costs. In return, give the guys after 1993 $6,000 a year maximum. Got it? This is the way the paper described it. The New Westerly Sun described this, and they did a very good job. I'm going to use them. You can do your own research on it. It's downstairs. But I think the way the Westerly Sun described it in 2004 was very good. If you bear with me, here it is. Again, we had Joe Turro back as the town manager now. Bright guy, you should talk to him. Of course, nobody wants to talk to him in the town. Anyway, here's what the paper said. The newer officers, those are after 1993, will continue to pay 15% of their health care during retirement, with the maximum premium contribution from the town capped at $6,000 a year. All officers must use any alternative health insurance available to them through their spouse or employer after they retire from the police officers. The older officers made a significant contribution. They accepted a significant copay in order to provide retirement benefits for the younger officers. So the town didn't care. The town got something from the old officers, and they gave something to the new officers. Is that clear? Crystal clear? That was the balance. 7 or 8 police officers that had been hired before 1993 retired before this went into effect so they wouldn't have to pay the copay. But it balanced. We're still talking 1993 where the town was realizing significant savings in health care costs. Joe Turro, I talked to him, he said $6,000 was a number we could give our actuary and we could be certain that it wouldn't be any more than $6,000. And as you're going to see, it was a lot less than $6,000 because these guys that retired went on their wife's plan. It was costing the town $100 to $200 a month, okay? But you had to wait because in 2004, you're at 20 years. 10 years. You had to wait another 10 years because in 1993, if you're hired in 1993, 20 years is 2013. So after 2013, the town would start to realize some of this incredible savings they were going to get. And as an example, I provided you with this document. It starts with, it's an email from Gina Brancata, there were 3 officers that retired before this new contract in July went into effect. 3 officers that were hired after 1993, worked for 20 years for the town of Westerly, and then retired just before this contract. 3 of them. And I've got the 3 here, I'm assuming. And I asked the town, can I provide me with the letters that you provided the officers when they left? Because I would think that the town would provide an officer when he's leaving or she's leaving saying, these are your benefits. These are what you get. Nothing. They say they don't exist. So what I have here, if you look at the first one from Gina Brancato to Sharon Kitchen, says, thank you so much for your help. I'm attaching what I so far about the insurance payment. Brancato didn't have insurance, so they went off and got insurance. It cost $519 a month. The town reimbursed $500. You can look at the receipts. Brancato was $500 they paid, so that was the maximum. And you had to provide the town with the town with the information on how much more it was costing you. So if a husband got on the wife's plan, it cost more money. You had to prove that to the town before they paid it. So Kenneth Brown paid $108. The town had to pay that. $108. And Gilman, $176. And I use their names. I don't mean to embarrass anybody, but just so you know, three police officers retire, and one they pay $500 a month to, and the other two are just over $100. Still savings. Still a huge savings. That's it. So I went and talked to Derrik Kennedy, and I want you to. I gave you a copy of the old contract. And the old contract makes it very clear. If you've got this one, page 23, section D. I'm going to read it to you. It was clear. Employees hired after July 1st, 1993, retiring at least 20 years of active service as a Westerly police officer, will pay 15% of the cost of health coverage. But the town will pay a balance up to a maximum of $6,000. Only $6,000. Then, the next sentence, which is the critical sentence. Any amounts in excess of $6,000 shall be borne by the employee. Crystal clear. I went and talked to Derrik Kennedy when he negotiated the new one. As you know now, they get insurance plus $6,000. He wiped out in the last contract 20 years of waiting for the town to recoup these beautiful benefits. He gave it away. And I said, why'd you give it away? He said, you can't read. That's what he told me. You can't read. And I said, Derrik, what are you going to do about this sentence? Any amounts in excess of $6,000 shall be borne by the employee. He did this. Get out. So how did he get it past the town council? How did we go from a maximum of $6,000 a year per retiree to now we pay for health care plus $6,000? How did that happen? I didn't know how it happened. I had John Gagne in my office. We're arguing about it. And I'm saying there was $6,000 the maximum. He said, no, it isn't. I said, what are you looking at? What he looked at was the fraud. And this is why you can't trust this man, and anything he says should be discounted. He's a liar and a fraud. Do you have the red line version that I sent you? Page 20. Page 20 of the red line version. How he got around it is he left that sentence out of the red line version. He hid it from the town council. He knew he made a mistake, and a better man would have admitted his mistake, because this is what happened. He realized in negotiations he had offered them too much. He had offered them health care plus $6,000, which basically puts us back to square one. Health and care plus $6,000 is about the same amount of money you're going to get for a police officer who was hired before 1993. Exactly the same. He went back into negotiations and said, I made a mistake, I want it back. They said, no. You offered it, we accepted it. He had a choice right then to make. He could have told the town council, I made a mistake. They would have rejected the contract, and they could have gone back and renegotiated. But he didn't. He decided to lie to the town council and keep it off the red line version. I have never, ever seen a red line version where they keep the most important sentence off to hide it from them. That's what he did. That's the type of man he is. I don't know how anybody could believe anything he says. Read it yourself. Find the sentence in there, the red line version. It's gone. That's how he handled it. And I just found this out recently. Now, police retiree example. Oh, by the way, the orders are from Oliverio, this doesn't get out. It's already out. But Oliverio's told the town councilors I talked to not to release it. Okay, it's privileged. They don't want you to have it. It's out. They can't hide it any longer. That's what we're dealing with. Don't make no mistake, Matt Oliverio does not work for the town of Westerly. He works for that man. He takes about $200,000 out a year, and he signs the checks. Now, if you see the police retiree example, that's this one. It's pretty clear. It's an extra $6,000 per year per retiree till they're 65. That's your $1.5 million. Do the math. Close to it. The fraud had to be completed, though. He couldn't use the old actuary. He needed a new actuary. And I've contacted the old one, and hopefully they're waking up. But they've been slandered. The old actuary would have known these numbers were wrong. They would have known them. But a new actuary doesn't know what the old numbers are because he provides them with wrong information. But, and I don't know, and as you've seen, if you look at the police officers, they're assuming $6,000 a year under the old plan, and that's true. That's what you can assume. That would have been the maximum, but it wasn't going to be close. Now we're up to $12,000 because of him, and he wants to tell you it's because of the old actuary. That's the problem. No, wasn't underfunded. He just increased the liability with one swipe of his pen for $1.5 million, and he lied about it. And he's lied to you about it. He lies to the Westerly Sun about it. He lies to everybody because he's an insecure little man who can't admit he made a mistake.
Mr. Chairman. That's a little.
Yeah, Mr. Lombard, I would just ask that you bring it around toward, this is a hearing on the town budget, and I understand that the OPEB is in there, and there's an increase. That's why I've given you a lot of latitude to talk about it, but could you bring it more toward?
All right, but it's you know, to watch it, I mean, I do criminal defense, so I know the hustle. But anyway, I will. But getting back to this actuarial report, I sent it to you, right? That information on the top is wrong. The actuarial report, they didn't get that. They didn't look at the contracts to get that. They got it from him. This thing that you could either get 15% retiree contribution if employee elects coverage with the town at retirement, that's not true. It maxed out at $6,000. So you could take the town, but the maximum was $6,000. We've doubled that now. Doubled it. Everything's wiped out because you can't take this away now. You're going to have to wait another 20 years. 20 years to recoup this. Because if you go to arbitration, any police officer on the force right now is always going to get health care till he's 65 and $6,000 plus. You can't take that away. We waited 20 years in this town, 20 years to realize these savings, and he took them away. In 6 months, they got three officers. That's all that you're going to get savings from. Now we're going to have to wait 20 years. The final straw is this. I don't know if you know it. It's tucked in the back of the contract. In 2014, I believe, Jim Lathrop, who was the finance director, set up a plan for the police officers because they were complaining that they weren't going to get retirement benefits or health care. So he set up a health savings account for the officers. This money, John Gagne said to me the other day that this is officers' money. The officers say it's not their money. This is town money, a lot of it. And he didn't take it away. So now they get insurance, plus $6,000 a year to use for family, plus this amount of money for health care. because he didn't know what he's doing. I don't know how to say that nicely, but this is a windfall. This is town money. I'm not adding it all up, but it's a ton. These guys are going to get it on retirement. You can't take it away now. That's him. So all I want to make clear is that this idea that the last actuary, I mean, I don't know if they did a good job with setting how much the fund would grow, but they weren't way off. All of a sudden now you have $1.5 million worth of liability. How does that feel? 20 years they were waiting for savings, and now you've got this, and to hide it from you, he's got to blame it on the actuary. And I've got the old actuary. I am working to get them involved because I don't think it's fair. It's not fair to them. This is a slander job. And so I would ask you to do whatever Derrik Kennedy ever tells you, to make sure you look at it very carefully. I don't know how anybody could ever listen to him and believe it when he was go to the extent of not putting a provision, a sentence in a red line version to hide it. And when I went to talk to him about it, he could have given it up then, but he told me I couldn't read. He can't read. And he did we're going to be paying this for years. This is not, you can't just take this away next time. So we're in trouble. But it's not fair to the police officers either, because all you're talking about is how the expense is for police officers, and they're upset. This is not there's nothing wrong with the pension. It might have been a little underfunded. Maybe the old actuary was a little bit too optimistic in the returns. I don't know. But you've got $1.5 million you need to put in there. He wants you to put it in without knowing why it's in there. I wanted you to know. Thank you.
Every year it seems, and I've only been here now twice now, 2 sessions, I don't understand why nothing is consistent in continuity of the same procedures. Last year we got 990s from everyone. We got reports to say what they were going to use it for. This year we didn't get anything for the subsidiaries. My point being is, and bring it to your attention, nothing is consistent. And so I'm going to keep pushing this till we find out. And back to Mr. Lombardo, we questioned it. I just saw some stuff from there that I can't understand why we've been requesting it and can't get it, but this gentleman can do the homework and get it. So we've been doing all this. I mean, we've questioned everything, but we don't get any answers. So duly noted. Thank you for coming out. David, thank you for coming out. But it's more because the continuity of doing this budget is always irregular.
Yes, I would just note that we did, last year we saw all requests. This year we did not. And I understand that there were no new requests that were brought forward. In the subsidy, it was level funding of all others, but I do back up, and we did raise that. Did we ever get we were supposed to get the thumb drive full of data with all the information, so we never got that. So that's difficult for us to make any kind of value judgment. I mean, judgment period, let alone value judgments on what should or shouldn't be funded. So I concur with that. I'm troubled, and I've raised this kind of question as we've gone throughout our review process, because clearly the single biggest portion of this budget is a $1.5 million increase in the what's called OPEB, other post-employment benefits, from $400,000 to $1.9 million. And I've reviewed the actuarial report. And from what I understand, it was done for fiscal year 16, which would have been under the old contract that was referenced. And in the review of the notes, it references, for instance, virtually verbatim the language of the old contract of the 15% of the premium which existed under the old contract, and the limitation of $500 per month. But then it also incorporates a portion, and this is kind of a key assumption to the whole actuarial report, which is half of the employees would take the town health insurance, which would require what they refer to as explicit subsidies and implicit subsidies, which they come up with at about $1,600 per month. And so it seems that there's, I think, some question with regard to the conclusions that the actuaries came to in the number, and that goes directly to the request, because we've stood by the whole time the idea of funding fully that request, and that number comes directly out of this actuarial report. Because I think if they didn't use that kind of mixed assumption, which seems to mix the old and the new contracts, there would have been some increase, because there were some differences between the old and the new actuary in terms of their assumptions, but it should have been substantially smaller. Now, further confusing the issue is the fact that we now have a new contract which has higher costs in some areas and lower costs in other areas, because post-65 retirees receive no benefits when before they were receiving some. So it kind of puts us in a very difficult position, because we're defending fully funding this portion of the post-employment liabilities that there seems like there's some questions about, and you know, it's having real impacts, because we're in a situation of trying to, you know, I'm not sure how we can go even fund some of the meager increases we're talking about without finding the money somewhere else, because we're already at a 2.4% tax increase, which is higher than I would have liked us to get to. I think we were trying to get to 2%. Does anyone else have input, thoughts?
Well, you know, if that's what the actuaries are saying, we almost have to fund it at their recommendation. And if there's an issue where the council wants to do that or not, it's, in the end, will be their decision, because they're the ones who are going to have to live with the consequences. You know, they're the ones who are going to have to face the voters in less than in about a year or so with that on their record. So this is what the actuaries are saying. We can say maybe it's not that, but in the end, that's what they're saying, and that's what we're going to be judged on financially by outside agencies.
Yeah, I think we have to go with the actuarial report that we're provided with, regardless of the contracts. They've incorporated the changes in the contracts, and we have to fund the amount that they recommend. I don't think like we did, we approached as that was, we fund that amount, we built the budget around fully funding that. I don't think we want to step into not funding the pension at the amount that has been suggested by the actuaries.
Do you want to make any comments regarding what Mr. Lombardo said about you? No? Personally, I feel like saying, how much does the town manager take, and divide it by 5,000 and start paying it that way, but obviously we can't do that.
It's
It's on. I made a bad remark, so I won't repeat it. However, we've questioned this. It stands out like a major red flag. When I asked for information from town council or anyone else, no one responded. So, personally, I would go back to the police department. They don't want to be bad guys? Well, go back to it. If he can't correct it, then do it that way. But I'm against it. I would say build it up gradually. There's no reason, just because an actuary report, we go through this with the bond rating also. You know how I feel about that. Just because some third-party organization says you have to do it, there's nothing in writing that says we have to do it. It's a suggestion. Just like our suggestions to the town council is to do this. It's meaningless. So, I disagree with you guys.
I wouldn't say our suggestions are meaningless. They certainly can be changed. I certainly agree with that. And I acknowledge that we, from the beginning, were supportive of the idea of fully funding OPEB, which, regardless of what the number was, had been significantly underfunded, and that was going to catch up to us eventually. I think we can note in our report to the town council that questions were raised about the actuarial report, and certainly we can, we'll be putting a draft together, and you can certainly, I'll seek comment from the group.